How's everyone doing today? That was a great session earlier, wasn't it? Yeah? I'm Stephanie Donahue. Today we're going to be talking about the 5 powerful tips to make the most of your mentor-mentee relationship. Something that I'm really passionate about right now. I'm starting to spend a little more time in this space, both professionally and personally. It's something, I say powerful tips because these are things that are going to make such a big impact. Mentoring is huge as far as your career goes and your personal development. And it's something that I just feel very strongly about, that if you're not looking into this, it's something you should really get involved with. And it's both on both sides. You can be a mentor and a mentee at the same time. How many of you here are interested in finding a mentor? Yeah. How many are interested in being a mentor? Yeah, awesome. That's great. That's a good answer. But it's something for me that, I didn't really necessarily understand the impact of when I first got started in my career. And so it's really exciting. I think it's great that Microsoft provides an opportunity to kind of get you introduced to mentorship and some of the benefits. Because I've always worked for a small, medium business, and we didn't have formal programs. And so being able to come to something like this and get introduced to it and find ways to connect with people, I think is just amazing. And I wouldn't be standing here today if it weren't for the mentors in my life. And I'm someone who, a little bit of an introvert. I have a technical background, right? So, being a speaker is not something that came naturally to me. And having mentors have made all the difference in my career overall. I'm a Microsoft Regional Director, Microsoft MVP. I own my own multi-million-dollar business now. If you'd have asked me 10 years ago if those things were possible, I would have told you were crazy. Those are things that I just thought, that's not me. I'm a normal girl from Ohio. I have a degree from a public university, and those are things that other people do. But what ended up happening was that I had the right mentors at the right time in my career. And so even very simple conversations have set me in a direction that have made all the difference in my career. And so that's really what I want to cover with you today, or just, what are some of those tips and tricks that you can take back with you so that you can have that same really awesome experience with your mentors or your mentees. I think we've all kind of had those experiences maybe where we've started down that path and it's not gone that well, or maybe it's not produced the things that we really wanted to see. So what is mentorship? At a high level, I think we're all kind of familiar with the concept, right? It's just a matter of someone who's more experienced helping someone who's less experienced. But we tend to think of mentorship in a very formal sense, and we feel like it has to be like, okay, we arrange this agreement and we have these very formal meetings. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. One of the most impactful people in my life, it happened in a single conversation. I was working for a consulting firm and was doing domain migrations and IT admin, IT pro stuff. Was doing my best to keep up with the guys. It was me and a bunch of guys in that group. And I was just really determined, I'm going to do this. And I had my manager pull me aside. And by the way, it was someone I wasn't even that fond of. We didn't get along that well. But he pulled me aside one day and he said, hey, you need to go do this SharePoint thing. You've been on some projects. You've done a really good job. Like, why are you fighting the guys on this? Like, go do SharePoint. You're good at it. And at first I was a little like, ugh, why would I do that? When I really thought about it, he was right. I knew he was right. And it was the right advice at the right time for me to make a change. And that one conversation took me in a completely different career direction than I was headed at the time. And here I am, I don't know, maybe 10 years later, and I'm still doing SharePoint work. And I own a company that does SharePoint work. And well, now it's Office 365 and Teams and all that good stuff too. But that one simple conversation made a huge impact in where I went and what I did with my career. And that was one conversation. Imagine if you can have that power in a single conversation, take that to the next level with the true relationship in a formal mentor-mentee relationship, then you have this ability to really get to the next level, because you're not just doing that once, but you're creating a plan, and you're creating steps, and you're figuring out, what is it that I'm going to do next? It's really powerful. So mentors don't have to come in formal capacity. They could be one conversation. It could be a peer mentor. One of my mentors has been a peer of mine for a long time. We push each other in different ways. So understand that that expertise that you're gaining from that person, maybe you're better than them at something else, but they might be better than you at something you really want to go do. So consider that too. So we're going to go through some tips here. The first one, find your passion. I think sometimes we tend to run out and think, well, I got to find the mentor first, and then we'll figure out what to talk about. But isn't it worth it, if it's such a big impact in your life, to sit down and go, okay, I actually probably need to think about what it is that I want from this relationship. What is it that we're going to go talk about? What am I passionate about? Because if you're not passionate, maybe you should be finding a different direction. And I know not everybody's going to love your career, but I can tell you I love mine. I love what I do every day. And so it was easy for me to sit down and kind of say, okay, what do I want to do next? So why are you interested? And think about that. What would you like to learn? Is it a technical skill? But it doesn't have to be professionally related. Maybe you need work-life balance. Maybe you want to pursue a hobby. Maybe you want to learn more about how to run faster. It's okay to find mentors for things like that too, because it helps you balance what's going on in your life. Running for me and working out has always been a good stress relief, and so maybe you need something like that in order to balance the stress that you're feeling at work. So don't think of it just in professional terms, but also think of it in terms of your personal life. And where are you stuck? Is there anything in particular that you're really just struggling with at work? I'm working with someone right now who has all these questions because she's new to the workplace, and she's not had to deal with hard conversations, and there's a lot of things that are going on. Well, my manager told me this, and what am I supposed to do about it? Or, I'm just kind of in a place where I'm doing my job, but I don't know, how to handle all these things that are coming at me. So maybe I should think about listing all of my passions and my goals and figuring out what I want, and then that's going to help me find the right mentor. It's going to help me with the conversation when I get started with that mentor. So list all those things and really write them down, think hard about them, and think about what you want to improve in yourself. And this is, of course, a screenshot of someone who's maybe a little embarrassed about public speaking. That was me, 5 years ago. And I had actually a mentor that saw the potential in my speaking ability and started submitting me to conferences without my permission. And you know what? I was so mad, but I didn't go and tell them I wasn't interested, because when I got accepted, I was like, oh, that's kind of awesome. And then I went and I found out that it was okay. But then over time, I had a couple bad sessions, and I almost quit a couple times. And that same mentor kept coming back to me and saying, "No, like get out of your own way. You can be good at this. You are good at this." And just hearing that reinforcement. Sometimes we need to get out of our own way, get out of our own head. You need that person to kind of help you understand what you're capable of. So when you list your goals and passions, and I don't know if any of you follow Rachel Hollis, but she actually has a goals journal. So you can think about your goals in terms of high-level goals, maybe what you want out of your career in the next 5 years. Maybe you really want a new car or a new house. What are the steps it's going to take to get you to that goal? So work through the big stuff. What is the big vision? But also work down through the details of what you think it's going to take to get you there. And in the case of Rachel Hollis, she tells you to write those things down, those high-level goals, write them down every day. So maybe if it's something that helps you, to write it over and over and over until you believe that is going to be your truth. That is going to be the thing that propels you forward. And then when you go to talk to your mentor, you remember what those goals are. And when you are having a bad day and it's rough and every day gets in the way, right? Because you've got kids and you've got work and you've got stress, remember what you're working towards, because you're going to need that, because this is hard work. Working with a mentor, changing yourself is very hard work. So figure out what your goals and passions are. And for those of you who want to be mentors, think about your passions too. I kind of accidentally tripped into mine. I had already started mentoring through the Microsoft mentoring program, but then I joined a national council for an engineering sorority called Phi Sigma Rho. I was part of that sorority as a college student. It was a huge source of support for me during that time. And I got involved because, again, I was kind of feeling like it was time to give back. I went to convention, and I sat at a table much like the ones you guys are sitting at now, and I sat with a table full of women in college. And for a complete hour, I almost couldn't eat because they were asking question after question after question. How do I balance work and family? How do you travel and still get to see your spouse? You know, how do you address when someone makes a comment that you're not comfortable with at work? These are all things that these young women were really struggling with because they're coming out of school and going into the workforce. And so for me, it was a clear thing that I had to go back and start mentoring some of these women because that's where my heart is. I was just like these women. So think about as you look at mentoring and you're going, okay, but I don't know where to give back or I don't know how. Sometimes it's about following that passion. Follow where you think that you can make an impact because you've been there and you've done that. And I found that as I sat there, I had answers. I did have things that I could talk to them about. And I felt like I had gotten through those the hard way. And I would love to help people get through them a little easier. And so that's how I found my passion. So think not just in terms of work and the people that you're engaging with every day, but also you can get outside and do mentorship through communities, through committees at work, through all kinds of different ways. So it doesn't have to be work. It doesn't have to be specific to your career. So the next step is to really get connected. You've kind of listed your goals and your passions, and you've figured out what you want to do. And now you need to sit down and figure out, how do I connect with these people? Was anyone in the Unconference yesterday for mentoring? So we ran through a scenario where the person who wanted that, they needed a mentor, and they rushed up to the person and they like, I'm a hugger, give me a hug, I love your stuff, and you know, I love to get to know you better, and I just, you know, and he just rambles, and like that's not the best way to approach a mentor. If you're approaching someone that you've never met before personally, or you're approaching someone who maybe you work with but doesn't necessarily know a lot about you as a person or have not been around you much, it's hard to make that connection. So get connected with the people that you want to get to know, either to be a mentor, or for them to mentor you. And so maybe that's social network. Maybe that's like Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn is a really good place to start to follow people. Engage in their work, comment on their stuff. If it's at work, you know, just go up to them after a meeting and say, hey, I really loved what you did today. You know, I'm really passionate about this topic. Love to talk to you more for 15 minutes. Start to build those relationships so that you can get connected and then eventually move to a point where maybe a mentorship relationship would make sense. So as you're looking for those connections, what are the options inside your company? Is there a formal place that you can go to kind of help get signed up for something? Is there a formal program? Is there a place outside your company, like the organization I was just talking about with Phi Sigma Rho? Like, what is it that you can get connected with? And so you can figure out what that is. And what happens if I can't find a mentor? Anybody have that problem? Maybe a few? Then we need to find some additional routes. And by the way, if you guys have questions as I go through this stuff, please feel free to, there are mics here in the middle if you have questions for me. So we can get connected online. Does anyone know about the Tribute app? Yeah, one? Okay, so this is big. If you are looking for mentorship in the technical space, this is a fantastic program. So Tribute is it's an app. So if you just go out to your app store right now, like Apple App Store, Android, whatever you have, you can download this application, and you can fill out a profile, add a picture, put in your interests. So if you're really struggling, kind of figure out how to connect with people, and maybe social networks aren't your thing, this is actually, so when you log in, you're actually logging in with your Microsoft Tech Community account, and you can fill in skills. And if you're wanting to be a mentor, you can also fill in your life experiences, things like going back to work after having a child, or maybe diversity conversations, things like that. There are experiences that maybe you can share with others that are not just technical skill based, that you can work through and then get connected with the right person. So really great application. There are others out there. If you're also looking for something executive-based, there are other programs out there that you can connect to. Probably some of them are paid and some aren't, but the Microsoft one I think is fantastic, because those of us here, I mean, how many of us have gone through trying to find the right technical mentor with the right skill sets? I mean, how overwhelming and how big is Office 365 right now, right? Like, where are we going with this thing? What should I do? Oh, Azure? Yeah, there's like 1,000 ways to learn Azure. There's Office 365, there's SharePoint, there's Teams. Like, how do I know what to do with my career? And also, you're thinking about transition. So there's a lot of folks that have been around for a while that are trying to figure out, what am I going to do with the fact that I have an IT pro skill set? I do server updates. How does that transition to the cloud? What are all the things that I need to learn and pick up on? And it's great that you're here this week, because that's the first step towards doing that. So as we look at, so we've kind of gone through two steps here, right? We're thinking about what our goals and passions are, and we are getting connected. By the way, has anybody introduced themselves to the person they're sitting next to here? No? I know we're kind of shy as IT people, right? Don't be afraid to get to know others. I was randomly sitting on the couch yesterday in the hub, and I actually met someone who I'm now going to do a phone call. We do services. Her company does product, and now we're going to do business. You should be talking to everybody that you can here. I know sometimes it's hard. I'm a little bit introverted too, but it's a great way to make connections. Do you guys know I met my business partner at a SharePoint conference? That's how, and then here we are like 7 years later, working together and doing awesome things, and he's one of my peer mentors as well. So you never know who you're going to meet, who's next to you. So to land your mentor, now that you kind of have your game plan together, and you need to figure out what it is, who is it? I'm going to go talk to this person. I want to give you a few tips. Treese from the Mentoring Unconference yesterday, I wanted to share some of her tips with you. I added these in because I thought they were really a great way. So once you've got your plan together, how am I going to approach somebody? So there's a 5-step mentor pitch, and I believe her slides are going to be posted. If you go, I did add a link here. These slides will be shared out later. But she talks about the 5 steps in putting together a pitch, so that when you're prepared, you can go talk to this person. And again, back to my story, like, you don't want to approach someone who doesn't know you. You don't want to be too excited. You want to come in with a plan. You want to say, okay, first of all, you want to think about how to inspire this person. So maybe you're approaching them and you're saying, wow, I loved your presentation today. I'm so excited and so passionate about this topic as well. So you're trying to take that and say, I have done my homework. I'm inspired by you. So you're kind of setting the stage for them to understand why you're interested in them as a person. You're making a connection. So you're saying, I am also interested in this topic, and I'm also very passionate about this. Or maybe there's some synergies that we have. We kind of come from different worlds, and maybe there's something that I feel like I can add to this. But be very clear about what it is that you want from this person. because it's kind of hard to approach someone you don't know and ask for a long-term mentoring relationship, but maybe it needs to start with one very specific question. Hey, I'd like to talk to you about XYZ as it relates to this project. And I'm coming and they know exactly why I'm approaching them. And when I say, I think I can provide value to this particular topic, then and the outcome there is I want to meet for 15 minutes. So that's something that's very specific. You're not putting too much pressure on them because in the moment, you're trying to make them decide otherwise that, hey, am I committing to like some long-term relationship, this mentorship? What does that mean? Like, who are you? But if you're saying, I just need 15 minutes, then you're getting the opportunity to talk to them really quickly, but that you're starting to build that relationship. And maybe the first meeting is 15 minutes, but then maybe the second meeting is 30. And then maybe from there, you can kind of start to bridge that relationship to the point where you can eventually ask them, hey, I'd love you to be my mentor. Can we do this on a regular basis? But it helps to be visible first. It helps that they know that you've done your research, that you've been engaged, and they know the reason that you've come to them. The worst thing for a mentor is to kind of show up and be like, why am I here? What is it that you want from me, and what are we supposed to be talking about? So I thought these 5 steps from Trace were amazing. So definitely go out, check out her slide deck, but this is really good stuff as far as approaching your mentor, figuring out what to do. And you could probably do something similar. If you're, I've heard that some executives keep a list. So they keep a list of people that they think are good for leadership. And potentially, if you've been, doing hard work, you're going to get noticed. And sometimes that mentor picks you. And so if you are planning to be a mentor, then this list could also help you because maybe you'd like to approach someone and you'd like to give them a chance to say, hey, I'd love to work with you. I've noticed a few things. Let me help you build your skill set. So this could go both directions. Okay. So our third tip here, show up prepared. So we've done all this work. We've landed our mentor. And now we need to figure out, okay, now I'm going to meet with them. And I think it's probably a little bit, maybe overwhelming or intimidating sometimes to do that first meeting. You might get nervous. You might forget what you're going to say. So it's good to just take your notes. Take the plans that you've made, the goals that you're setting, all of those things. Take those with you. Prepare questions. And I've noticed for me, when someone wants me to mentor them, if they come prepared. I had one mentee, every day he would come and he had like 5 bullet points. I need this, I need this, I need this. That was amazing because we could work through that. And if I knew in advance what those questions were going to be, if he had the opportunity to send those to me, I could prepare. Here's a book you can read. Here are my thoughts on this. So just think about it in advance on what you want to cover, what are the things, so that we can prepare to give you the right information. So as you think through that, you want to be prompt, you want to respect their time. Again, if it's meant to be a 15-minute meeting, don't expect that you're going to be there for an hour. Be done in 15 minutes, take your notes, and then, let's say, reach back out at a different time. Maybe we could finish this conversation later. I want to be respectful of your time. I know you have a lot going on. As I mentioned, send questions in advance. Establish a regular cadence. And I find this one to be super, super important. If you're looking to build on one session to the next, you really want to be able to say, okay, this is our goal for this week, and then come back in the next week or two. We like to do every 2 weeks with the folks that I mentor. I think that's a good space for you to go get some work done, we call it homework, get your homework done, and come back and tell me what you've been working on. So that way, it's hard. I know everybody's busy. You have that time blocked in your schedule. You make it happen. People say, well, Stephanie, you run a business, and you go and do these speaking events, and you travel for work, and your kids are in sports, and how do you have time for this? I make time for this. It's blocked on my calendar before anything else. It's blocked months in advance. You have time for mentoring. It's about priorities. So if this is important to you for your career, your passion, whatever, get it on your calendar. Block an hour, and you may need to block time to prepare too. How am I going to make sure I get my homework done in time? If I'm the mentee, block the time to get it done. You can't make change if you wait till the last minute and then try to rush through your assignments right before you talk to your mentor again. Make sure you're blocking enough time for all of that. And then allow for emergencies. I got an urgent text. I was at a football game for my kids, and my mentee sent me this urgent text. He's like, oh my gosh, something's going on, and he sends me this screenshot, and I'm like, it's okay. Like, I stepped out, and we had a quick conversation, and everything calmed down. It was like he just, took something a little too personally, and that happens. And sometimes you need to reach out to that mentor and say, hey, give me a feel on this. So allow for emergencies, set up a protocol for that so that you are still being respectful for your mentor or your mentee, but let them know when it's okay to reach you and how. And in our case, I just said, hey, text anytime. Something comes up, let me know. And if for some reason I don't get back to you, I'll make sure that we touch base as soon as possible. So I would say, hey, I'm right in the middle of something. I promise I'll call in an hour. That's okay too. So establish a protocol for that, because there may be times where you really need that touch base or you really need that feedback so that you have something that you can lean on. And you also want to set and clarify expectations. This is something that if you don't, you may come into it from a different angle. Maybe you just need someone to listen. Maybe you just need someone who's going to kind of sit there and empathize with you, and I know it's rough and you can do it, and you kind of need that encouragement. But if you don't explain that, then this person could sit there and try to give you fixes, right? What if you do this? What if you do this? What if you do this? And if you're not in a place where you can receive that, or that's not what your intent was from the beginning, then that relationship is not going to work very well. So you want to be very specific when you give them your goals and your passions and the questions that you have. Make sure to set and clarify, this is what I'm hoping to get from you, right? If it's a promotion at work that I'm going for, maybe say, I need very specific steps for things that I need to improve on from you so that I know how to get to my goal. That's a very specific question. So be specific, clarify what those things are. Tip number 4, build trust. Change can only happen when trust is in place. A lot of us are going through Office 365 migrations right now, right? Do we have to build some trust that the cloud was going to be okay for us before we could make that change? Absolutely. Is it hard for our end users to figure out how to use 365? They have to trust that it's going to work. They have to trust that their information's not going to be deleted, right? If they're going to make these big changes for their technical skills at work, they have to trust that they can still get their job done. And then they're not going to get fired because something didn't get finished, right? It's kind of similar to that. We have to trust each other so that I know when I get that information or that advice, that I feel good about it, that I feel like, yeah, that's the right thing to do. Because if I don't trust that person, I'm just like, blow them off. Like, nah, they don't know what they're talking about. Well, then, if that trust isn't in place, then that mentorship isn't going to work very well. And that takes time. Because when you first start to get to know someone, there's kind of these like 5 levels of communication. And it goes from a very casual, like high-level conversation to facts, to opinions, to emotions, to transparency. Transparency is where you need to be in order to make change. You need to keep your mentor, mentee in the loop of what's going on. If you've had a really rough week, maybe you're fighting with a spouse, or maybe something happened with your kids, and you come into that meeting and you're like, you're just not in a place for change because you just can't handle it anymore, you need to let them know. You need to open up a little bit. You need to trust that they're not going to go anywhere with that information. But you need to let them know that today is not the day for big change. I just need you to sit and listen because I'm really stressed out. So build into that relationship. And I'm a huge fan of doing video chat. We have Microsoft Teams now, right? Use your video chat. I think being able to see each other is really important. If you can't be in person, which now I know these days is super hard, but a lot of my mentors or mentees have been in other states. So we just hop on video chat. We have a quick conversation. It's also a little easier to read how they're feeling, how they're reacting to the information. Are they absorbing the information that I'm sharing? Are they excited? Are they sad? Are they upset? Are they totally distracted? I mean, how many meetings do we join where, everybody, like half the people like check out? They're not listening. Oh, I was on mute, right? So make sure that they're checked in, be on video. Face-to-face is awesome. If you can do your first couple in face-to-face, that's awesome. But definitely, whatever it is, Skype, Teams, whatever you have available, definitely try to use that. And tip number 5, be vulnerable and open to trying new things. You really want to take things to the next level, you're going to have to open up, which is why that trust is so important. You've got to know that that person you're working with, if you're opening up and you're at work and you've got to get some real personal things on the table, you've got to know that they're not going to go tell anybody else that you work with. So be vulnerable and be able to take constructive criticism. You've got to be able to understand where your weaknesses are to get better. So take those small steps. Let them give you some baby steps to work towards those things. Know that change takes time. We need, the Dave Ramsey baby steps to financial success kind of thing. I think it's a great method for any time that you're trying to implement change. You do one thing at a time, one step at a time. That way you can handle the different changes that are coming. But make that plan, work directly with your mentor, your mentee, and be vulnerable. Because trying new things, being outside of your comfort zone, that's what's going to get you the most results. I have to do things every single day as a business owner that I've never done before, especially as my business grows. But I know up here, I'm like, if I don't do this, we don't get where we want to go. So I have to push myself every single day. Get out there. If you're not feeling a little bit uncomfortable when you're working with your mentor, you may not be pushing hard enough. And that's not for everybody. Everybody kind of has their own pacing and their own way of doing things. But if you really want to hit things hard, you should feel uncomfortable. Okay. All right. So any questions before I move on? I'm going to give you guys a chance to ask questions. Do you want to come to the mic so we can hear you?
Thank you. First question, as a mentor, how do we deal with mentees that come to approach you to ask kind of doing things instead of asking how to do that? Lately, for example, I have been asked by students to send her good presentation template, but she never, for example, asked to know how to make a good presentation. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, coming from a generation of internet, she knows that the resources come from internet, but I cannot tell her, go and look it for yourself, for example. Mm-hmm. And second, she didn't really need the template. She need to know how to make a good template for herself. So how to deal with these mentees that they are asking the wrong questions?
So I think that's part of the learning process, right? Being able to know and understand what the right question to ask is. So I typically take the approach of trying to step them back a little bit. So, okay, I hear you. You have asked for some things, some templates and whatever, and I'd love to provide that to you, but I'd really rather, it's kind of a teaching you how to fish thing, right? I don't want to fish for you. I want to teach you how to fish so that you can do this yourself. That way, you're not dependent on me. So let me teach you. This is how I would go about looking for that information. My first step, I would look, on the internet. I would do a Bing search. But these are the sites that I would hit in order to go find that, right? These are my resources, because maybe I don't have that template or whatever they're looking for, right? I would have to go look for it too. So I would take them through the steps that I would use, and I would say, this is your homework for next week, right? So when we come back, now I know, did you attempt it? Or are you coming back and asking the same question? Because that's going to tell me about how that relationship's going to go. And we're going to have some serious, hard conversations if you don't go at least try, right?
Okay.
Is that?
Thank you. I just remember another question. So you just gave many tips for mentees how to approach mentors. What about the tips in the in the other side? For example, sometimes I discover that this person needs help, but it depends on some vulnerable person how to approach them, how to offer them mentorship. So what are your tips for a mentor to approach a mentee?
I'm a big fan of, when possible, if we're in the same place, I like to just take them to lunch and just feel them out. 'Cause not everybody's ready for help, and you have to kind of feel that out. So I like, grab coffee, go to lunch, have a quick conversation, just sidebar maybe. But I like to feel them out, because if you hit them too hard up front, like, I want to help you, they'll be like, whoa, what'd I do wrong? So you really have to kind of understand, like, hey, how are things going? How do you feel like that went? Get them to give you a little feedback, because if they're feeling a little bit of insecurity about it, they may, kind of open up to you if you're asking and you're trying to be helpful. That's a good way to kind of get that conversation going, but it's very much the same, like we talked about not overwhelming our mentor when we approach them. We have to take that same approach, and maybe even more so with the mentee, because they're coming from a place, if you're their boss or their manager or a VP in the company, like, they could take that the wrong way. So you really want to make sure you're making a personal connection and making sure they know that you have their personal interests in mind and that you're looking to help them build their skill set, as opposed to, man, you really screwed up today, we need to fix this, right? We have to be very careful in that approach. Oh, did I miss you in the back? Were you first? All right, sorry, go ahead and come up. Yeah, we'll do yours first, though. Thank you for waving me down.
So do you have any good tips and tricks as far as divorcing either your mentor or mentee based on that relationship you're trying to really work to establish when bad things happen?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because there's a couple scenarios, right? The first scenario is it's not working. But the second scenario, you might get to a point where, like, this person's rocking it out.
Right.
Like, they don't need me anymore, and I feel like we're just talking, right? So in any scenario, it definitely kind of, again, feel them out. How are you feeling? Like, how is this going for you? Try to see if they're feeling the same stress that you're feeling, that maybe something's not clicking. And in the scenario that maybe it's not working for you, a good option is to suggest somebody else. To say, I think you'd be a really good match for this other person. And maybe that person can be a more effective mentor for you, and say, let's just try like one meeting. I'm not backing out on you, but maybe you should try with them and just see. I think they could really provide you value. And that's kind of a good way to kind of step out, at least for a meeting or two, and then you could sync with that other person and kind of get a vibe. Because like I said, sometimes people just aren't ready, and they're just fighting you all the way. And if you don't feel like it's effective, you've definitely got to do something. But if there's someone else who can help, it's a great thing. And then in the case that maybe you've kind of run its course with how they've done, I just had a conversation with one of my mentees, and I said, hey, I've got this other person that really needs my help, and I feel like you're killing it right now. How do you feel? Do you think we can take this down to once a month instead of once every other week? I'd really like to go help this other person. And they said, yeah, that's great, actually, because I want to now go help this other person. So now he has time on his schedule to go help somebody else, too. So it kind of depends on the scenario, but there's usually a way to kind of walk back out of that without being like, man, I just can't work with you.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay. Is there a question in the back?
Hi. I want to ask a question. You said something about being open, sharing what you're struggling with, life balance and all that. So I noticed something happened when I had my first child, and a lot of things changed in my office. So it was really hard for me because I was the only female technical person in the office, and a lot of things were kind of, no, I wasn't given, the way I was given responsibility changed. A lot of things really changed, really. So I really struggle to actually get back. I think I also struggle to also win their trust. That I could do even work. I could do some stuff. Even some maybe trainings. They won't put my name for trainings. Oh, don't worry, just go and take your. I want to know how do you come back? How do you I don't know how do I explain this? Because I have mentors outside, far away, but I don't have mentors close to me. How do I balance it? How do I make sure it works?
Yeah, so when you've got something very specific, a lot of change going on inside your organization, I think even if it's not a formal relationship, find a champion, find someone you trust, and kind of bounce some things off of them. Say, like, I'm kind of seeing this stuff happen internally, I'm a little frustrated. Do you have any feedback for me? Like, what are you thinking? Because it doesn't have to be a formal mentor-mentee relationship. If you're struggling and you're not really finding anyone who's really that right person, this is where peer mentors become very helpful. Because you can start, who do you trust in the organization? Who could be your champion? Who can you bounce things back and forth with so that you kind of have that second level of like, am I reading this correctly? Do I understand this right? Because I'm a little frustrated right now and I need a little second opinion maybe, right? So that would be my approach if there's not someone kind of in that inside circle to help with that who truly understands the culture. And sometimes if there is, I don't know if it's a toxic culture, but if it is, you do maybe also want to talk with your outside mentors about what's going on to make sure it is the right environment for you. Because sometimes you can't fix things internally based on the management structure, things like that. Did that answer your question?
It's kind of. Thank you.
Yeah, we can catch me afterwards if you wanted to expand on that.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for your presentation. I understand also through your presentation why some mentorship program failed because of commitment. So my first question is how to, if we want to implement mentorship programs in our home countries, how we ensure that the matching between mentor and mentees can work. Because I was involved in 2 programs and we noticed that there is less commitment and either the mentor is disappointed or the mentee is disappointed because his mentor is not available.
So if it sounds like that it's lacking accountability a little bit, and so I would say with new programs, something that you could do is just commit for people to go at the same time. Maybe you kind of pair up and everybody goes to lunch one day, and so if there's 6 people going or 8 people going, you kind of feel like, oh gosh, I should really be there, as opposed to kind of leaving it open-ended for them to schedule. So maybe giving them a space, whether that's maybe having a room in the organization or going out for lunch or whatever, but giving them something like some kind of date to work towards to say, have your plans together and let's plan to meet on X day. And then you can do your breakouts based on who's paired, but everybody's kind of doing it together. So you're saying, this is the commitment you're making by joining the program. That way things don't kind of filter out on their own. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. And I want to take this opportunity to thank my mentor, Fatima. Yeah. Where is Fatima? For being mentor for 5 years now. I was student and she was teacher. We were at the same school in Algeria. So we met and she asked me one time, if you need something, just send me an email. And if I am available, I will respond you. And today we are here together at this conference, attending mentorship session.
That's awesome.
So,
let's go.
Thank you.
That's good. 5 years. So see, that's maybe one of the longer mentor-mentee relationships. So I kind of have a peer mentor that we've been together 7 years. So you can have short-term ones. You can have one conversation. It could be 5 years. Lots of really great opportunities. Okay. Any other one more question? We have about 2.5 minutes.
Right. I have a quick question.
Okay.
It's to do with the the references that you gave earlier to what you can read to just get abreast of what the mentorship thing is about. You mentioned Rachel Hollis.
Yes.
And her journals.
Yes.
And also you mentioned the mentoring Unconference speaking presentation. Do you have some other references? And also, could you clarify regarding the references that you put forward? Like, one of the things I heard about was a book called Wavemaker, I think it has to do with career secrets of outstanding performers. That's really helped me. So maybe you can talk to the other references that you gave earlier.
And thank you for that suggestion, too. So the first one was the Tribute app, so we can kind of go back through that. You know what? We can kind of do the recap slide. It's a good time for that. So on this slide deck that I'm sharing out, there is a Tribute training video. So if you go to aka.ms/community mentor program, that'll take you right to the information on the Tribute app. I think there's like a QR code or whatever you can use to get the app, but you can also find it in the App Store. So that was one of the resources. Trying to think of what else. Rachel Hollis, so she is all over the place. The Hollis Company, she's got a podcast called Rise. It's amazing. She's so good. Her goals journal, she sells those, just Bing. Rachel Hollis Goals Journal. And it just has a bunch of pages for you to write your goals down every single day and some loose notes around that as well. What was the last one? There was a third. Oh, the Unconference session slides. So those you can go out if you go to the myignite.microsoft.com. You search sessions, look for the Unconference for purposeful mentorship. I believe the slides will be posted out there as well. So lots of good content in Teresa's slides. And if you want, you can also reach out to me, Twitter, Steph K. Donahue, or steph.donahue@outlook.com. If you're looking for any resources and can't find them, please make sure to reach out. But recap real quick down to our last few seconds here. First, find your passion, get connected with the right person, show up prepared, build trust, and be vulnerable to try new things. Those are my 5 tips for you. And get involved. Find that Tribute app, get involved in the Community Mentor Program through Microsoft. It's been fantastic for me. I've been really excited and thrilled to participate. And that's my time. So thank you very much for coming today.